Welcome to the CEO Project Podcast, where Jim Schlexer, author of the best-selling book, Great CEOs Are Lazy, and the founder of the CEO Project, provides ideas and tools to help CEOs of mid to large-sized companies grow and optimize their businesses. Now, let's get started with the show. Welcome, everybody, to the CEO Project Podcast. My name is Jim Schlexer, and I am your host and interrogator. Well, one of the topics that we're talking to CEOs all the time about now is AI. And it's sort of a technology that's looking for a solution, like many other technologies were, blockchain, NFTs, name it. And some of them found homes and some of them didn't. I think people are way more optimistic that AI is going to find some sort of killer apps. But as business leaders, we have to understand, what does that mean for our business? How fast should we be adopting? Where should we be adopting? What are the troubles, potholes, and whatnot? And luckily today we have an expert on exactly that topic. So Tiago de Costa is a technology entrepreneur specializing in physics, simulation, cloud computing, and AI. He founded Lagoa, which developed a cloud-based mechanical CAD product, later acquired by Autodesk and integrated into Fusion 360. And while at Autodesk, he led major cloud data and AI initiatives across construction, manufacturing, media, and entertainment divisions. He's got a couple of patents in high-frequency data systems. We're going to ask a lot of questions about that. And then actively invest in startups and later-stage companies. Tiago, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk about AI and all of the ramifications of it.
I love it. So how did you, it's a super new field. What brought you here? What's your credibility to say, hey, I kind of know something about AI? How did you get to that place?
That's a good question. Yeah. So, everybody that worked in physics ended up turning into AI. So
I think
back,
everybody who was in music, physics, engineering, business, all went to AI.
well, I mean, in the sense of training AI models, right? I think most of my friends actually that study physics that, in the beginning, like in the early 2000s, all that AI was used for was try to figure out games.
Yeah.
Then some of that math became what we do in physics, and vice versa. There's some exchange there, and then all the physics went into movies. So
Yep.
all the computer graphics physics was used to get to the level you have today. Marvel movies that are made super quick, and you can make explosions and water and anything happen. And then now you have AI, which basically is kind of an evolution of all this, and I guess the culmination of all human inventions in one
Yeah.
in one. So it's like an airplane, right? You can do everything. You can go anywhere. You can do all kinds of things, but it may not fit on every garage. So it's pretty complicated to operate. And I think we're getting to the phase one of AI now. I
Yep.
would say three phases. Phase one is like when this thing was new and we all discovered it, and then people started learning it. We're going to enter phase two, which is every employee that joins the workforce in the next 6 months is going to have learned and used AI to get graduate to graduate to write their acceptance speech to make their website. They will have been using AI for everything they did in life for the past few years. And then when those people hit the workforce, then everybody else that doesn't use AI is going to be in a disadvantage. So we're still to see a major shift in the workforce because this is so new.
Yep. Interesting. Well, I think you just fired half the CEOs in the United States with that move, but that's okay. I get that. I use AI all the time for writing and research projects and whatever, including, nobody uses Google anymore. Use AI to resolve those arguments at the dinner table, right? So
Yep.
where are you seeing application to AI that is really compelling from a business point of view? Because that's the question I get asked all the time by CEOs. Like, okay, great stuff. Tell me how I make more money with it. So help us with that.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think today we're at the stage where people are still looking for like bottom line improvements, right? Like how do I make my sales team more efficient? How do I make my marketing more
Yeah.
efficient?
Sorry, that's
So
that's how we're all wired, man. It's just the
yeah,
way we are.
that's the right way, I think, for economic reasons and for the sake of everybody's. But I think that's where we are now. We have AI summarization works really well.
Yep.
AI search works really well. Generation of content, especially low low stakes content like marketing, sales content. If you mess up an email, like, okay, you may lose a customer. So that's a little bit worse. But like, all the content and marketing and all that stuff, support content. So you can basically, 10x your employees today with AI effectively on all these different facets of the business. It could be, let's say your sales team is writing emails and following up with customers. Probably they shouldn't. You should probably be using some AI tools in there to, automate email writing. So for example, in my experience, we record calls with customers and we ask an AI to generate the follow-ups, and he generally generates a much better follow-up than the salesperson. And we use the best of the best salesperson's intuition around the response so that you get, the best response, the best engagement, all the follow-up tasks, all the calendar invites, all the stuff that needs to happen. So AI is very effective at that. I think this is phase one. Phase two, again, is going to be more.
So can I just stop you on that? Expert systems have been around forever, right? But they're mostly heuristic in their modeling. When you're trying to do real AI, you need a training set, right? You need a data set of substantial, a big enough size that you can actually train the AI on it and build appropriate analysis. So how do you take like your best salesperson and their way of approaching, follow up? How could there be enough data to train your AI against that? That's sort of when you say that, I'm like, well, got to have 10,000, 100,000 pieces of data, right? And we probably don't have 10,000 emails. So how do you train the best into your AI response tool?
Yeah, you would be surprised on how few examples we need to give to AI today to be
Really?
effective. Yeah. I mean, that's what my company does essentially. We aggregate data for your business and then we model the agent on top of that data. So, Salesforce data is a great source of data, HubSpot, emails, call transcripts. Everybody's been recording calls with customers for the past couple of years.
Yep.
So what's interesting about this is that the data curve is preceding this AI curve. So if you look at what happened before we trained AI models, well, social media happened. And that's why we had so much data to train AI, right? So you have to look at those, preceding curves to actually understand where's the data going to come from.
Right.
In the case of generalistic AI, we trained on Reddit and, social media and all this
Yeah. Actually, there's a lawsuit
information.
on that. There's a lawsuit on that topic right now. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and web scraping and all these other sources of information. But really, the fundamental is, people documented their lives so that AI could learn it.
Yep.
So today we've been recording calls with customers for the past 2 years. So, we have documented our performance in these calls, and we can actually know quite well if we won or lost a deal, and we can trace all of it. I mean, actually, we don't need as a human to do this. AI can effectively do this. And if you connect out your transcripts from your sales calls, your sales emails, and your CRM solution, you pretty much have an entire blueprint of how it works.
Got
And
it.
it's really good at understanding that unstructured information and make sense of it for the human.
Interesting. Well, and I think what you're pointing to is, and we had a guest on a few months back that talked about small AI models. So people think about the large language models and they need massive sets of data, but when you got a very specific task that you're trying to train on, you don't need quite as much data to get a good job out of it. And you had a fair amount of data as well. So yeah, that's fascinating. So where else are you seeing people deploy AI in their businesses, and getting some level of return? Like obviously I'm interested in economic, but other kinds of returns that might be interesting. And by the way, I'm all over the human augmentation, which is where you went first, right? People think it's going to replace us today. At least it's just going to augment us.
Yeah.
But where are we seeing it work? Where are people getting bang for their buck?
Yeah, I think the first stage is really on these frontline roles like the business roles, sales and then marketing is very, very popular.
Yep.
We see a lot of content just the entire SEO strategy went up in flames with AI because now you're trying to rank for citations inside of ChatGPT. I mean, there's just a whole new dynamic of like what is the and then the volume of content you need right now to surface is way higher. So if you don't use AI to generate it, it's almost impossible to surface on SEO and all these other systems. And these systems are actually designed to work well with AI generated data now. Like in the beginning,
Yep.
it was like, oh, we're gonna just ban all the AI generated content from the web. And then very quickly, people were like, actually, that's actually much better if we we use
Ah,
that.
really?
Yeah, the information is more, the patterns are easier to understand for a search engine to index and so on and so forth. It's all changing. Like you saw last 2 weeks ago, there was a bump in keyword rankings for marketing, for all marketing and all sites, just massive bump on indexing from Google. And that's because they toggle off, they probably toggle off the AI, the filter that they had. And they
Yeah,
indexing AI pages too, because I mean, why not? Like that's, a lot of that content was essentially repeated content anyway.
right.
So you kind of want AI to be the one to help you discern it. So
Interesting.
that's another place. And then customer success, very obvious. There's just so much in customer success. And then product development, there's a lot of internal tasks that was really difficult. Like if you think about the role of a product marketer, in company, that role is so difficult to hire for. So high stakes roles where like, how do we talk about our product out in public? Well, guess what? Like finding an individual that's both technical and excellent at marketing is really hard. But you can actually get an AI to be very technical and excellent in marketing at the same time. So
Right.
these bluebird roles, like I wouldn't hire a product man, like a content marketer for my product, or I wouldn't, hire, effectively a project manager right now. And the next frontier of AI is agentic AI. So that's where we're seeing a lot of the initiatives right now. And our product's an agentic product, so we talk about it quite a bit. But the whole point of the
Can you define that for us, please? Because I'm
yeah,
not, yeah.
yeah. So there's like really three layers, right? There's the large language models and small language models, which is you can think of it as if you compare it to cloud, you can think of it as S3 or EC2, which are storage and compute sources on the cloud. So LLMs are just like that platform layer. So if you think about that platform layer, so Amazon launched S3 in 2006, and it was a storage layer. And what got built on top of it? Billion-dollar companies, Dropbox, DocuSign. These are all built on a very basic storage layer,
Right.
right? The people making the storage layer also became big companies, but not for the same reasons.
Hmm.
So the layer of LLM is literally that same platform layer. So you're gonna have the next Dropbox, the next DocuSign, the next these billion-dollar companies are gonna surface off of using large language models to build products and workflows on top of it.
Got it.
Um, Agentic AI is a little different, which you're trying to take on the work. So that is a completely new thing. Normally, software was always built so that we could be more efficient, so that the human could get more done.
Right.
And now we're talking about no, we got to bring in the agents that have agency, which means we ask them for something, we give them a goal, and we expect them to figure it out without much instruction, like you would do with an employee. So
Yeah.
effectively, your employee, you say, hey, we need to throw this big event, and I need you to figure out how we do the happy hour. You're not instructing which websites or platforms or vendors, you're not instructing what to do and how to do it. You're just giving the goal. And that's what agentic AI is all about. So like now we're taking software to a whole new layer, which is taking software plus work. So if you think about, an accountant, let's say making as $100,000 a year, then the software piece maybe is 10,000, right? So we're talking about like the software piece no longer being just 10,000. We're talking about the
Hmm.
software piece potentially being three new accountants. So you're buying software, but you're actually getting work out of it, which poses a question on how do you monetize this? Because you're
Yep.
not monetizing software anymore, you may be monetizing tasks. Um,
Yep. Interesting. Yeah. I mean, it's almost like the workflow automation to the next level, right? You're now being instead of just handing it a rule set, you're saying you got to figure out the rule set on your own, which is sort of the evolution we've done in underlying AI infrastructure as well. So you mentioned a couple jobs that are going overboard really fast: project management, product marketers. Who else is on the endangered species list in your view?
Yeah, I mean, all the tasks that did, require a whole, I mean, programmers, software developers,
Oh
like
yeah,
that's a big one. But the interesting thing about that is like professional software development is going to flatten out, but everybody else is going to become a software developer because the tools are so easy.
yeah.
So you're effectively going to have more technical people able to do more and create more software per se, but in a new way. So it's an interesting shift. I think like a net positive jobs are going to be added
Hmm.
ultimately. So I don't believe there is going to be a contraction in the employment market because there's just so anybody can start a new company now.
Hmm.
Content value skyrockets because AI has created a bunch of stuff, but it cannot have this interaction we're having now.
Yeah.
Um, so, and then people are freed up to do other things. So like I think it will be a net positive on the market for jobs, but I don't see anybody hiring, like aggressively for content marketing for, some of these um, managerial tasks that we've seen. Project management is one, programming. Product managers are kind of an endangered species because more of the product is defined by AI
Yep.
and and by usage, and there's a much closer gap that AI can close than a human. So product management, I have frozen product management hires in my company. We have two
Yep.
great PMs that came from Google, and they're incredible. And we're going to continue hiring very senior people. But I think they are like the amount of AI they use every day, like 500, 600 interactions with AI per day to produce everything from specifications on the product to documentation to customer communications. They're effectively doing the work of like three PMs right now.
Yeah.
Um, and in the past, I had four. So if that gives you an indication, like, I did not like really grow that team.
Yeah.
I also didn't let it go, but PMs are kind of losing interest in the profession sometimes.
Oh, no kidding. Well, maybe
Very
not as,
repetitive.
yeah,
Um,
exactly. You're driving an AI bot. Well, that's not very exciting, right?
That's not very exciting. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
we're seeing a lot of voice activation
Yep.
as well. So, like, people just want to have a conversation with AI and have basically their work done for them. Um,
Hmm.
so that's probably the future of a lot of these tech jobs. And yeah, that's what I would say is important.
Okay. What about management, right? So somebody who leads a team, maybe leads a Scrum team or development team, is that a task that could be moved over to AI as well? Like,
I don't think the entire task can be mirrored, but there's two types of people right now using AI. Ones that have just discovered that you can generate an insane amount of text
mhm.
and they just share that and they don't put much thinking into what they are asking the AI to do or how much context they're giving. So it's very common that somebody that's new to AI is going to send you this insanely long text saying, here's the
Yeah.
plan. And you're like,
Yeah.
well, I didn't pay you to generate the plan. Like, I could have generated the plan. This tools is super easy to use. We all know. And then the ones that put like a deep thought into the research aspects of AI and the contextualization and the feedback and and then they put a lot of that effort. Those are going to be the ones that are going to surface, especially on that role of management.
Yep.
Uh, Managers that are just like kind of using AI and plain and simple and are not mastering the technology and mastering the workflows, and then putting their own view into this. These are the ones that I think are going to be more in an endangered species list. Because very quickly people get fatigued, of just getting a ton of like, here's five new slides I generated with 50 pages each. Like, well, I'm gonna ask my AI to summarize that for me, and then like I'm gonna realize that pretty much there's nothing there.
Yeah.
Uh, so we need to just find ways to train people to actually use it well, to keep them in the market.
Interesting. Yeah. And then I had somebody was writing articles using AI, and the language use, and it was obvious it was AI, right? Hadn't learned how to be natural yet. I mean, that'll improve over time, but in the beginning it was like, this is horrible. Like, I know what you did. Don't just shoot me an AI. I could have gone that, hit a button and done that. I don't need you to do it for me. So, um, what about apps? Like, just this is more of a personal question. What are you finding to be your most useful AI tools and apps that you use to do your job in leading a company?
I mean, I certainly use Gemini and the other ones. I use our product a lot because it connects to all the sales, all the marketing content, and it does all the generation and it has the tooling and the actions and all this stuff. So that's quite a unique thing. Um, and I think I'm using a lot more voice now. I
Okay.
think it's a lot more important. But here's the problem that we have at the app layer right now, and why this is really going to be the place where we're going to see most disruption. Most tools in the past 50 years were built so that we could type or point and click with the mouse.
Yep.
And the interface to AI is very low. The throughput to AI is very low. So if I have to write two sentences to the AI, and I could say, two phrases, I'll probably prefer to say two phrases to the AI. Most tools don't have that interface.
Yeah.
So when I need to go and figure out like how to turn this thing on in Salesforce, like as soon as I open Salesforce, I'm discouraged.
Hmm.
And as soon as I go into the settings tab, I'm like, why am I doing this? And then I lose focus and I go do something else. So the first tools to arrive that simplify the UX, the user
Yep.
experience significantly, the first tools to arrive there are going to be the one that they're going to get the fastest adoption. And we haven't
Yeah.
even seen the wave yet. Like there's just no, there's very few. Another role that's probably disappearing is the user experience designer, the classic UX designer. When you're designing for text and audio, and you have one text box, you don't have a lot of drop downs anymore. You don't have a lot of places to go in the product because you're talking to this massive intelligence and you
Yep.
expect it to do stuff. The whole UX role becomes very weird. And also, it's a lot easier to prototype using code by asking an AI to prototype for you. So, like, why is this person designing a UI if there isn't going to be a UI anymore?
Yeah.
Um, so there's a lot of that happening right now, and that's why there's so few AI tools that are actually in production right now. If you compare it to where we should be. It's just that the interface and the user experience layer is just not there.
Yeah. Well, and the reason why I ask, I see these lists of, you need to know these 50 AI tools to be competent. And I start looking through them and I'm like, they're not that interesting, most of them, you know?
Yeah,
I know they
yeah.
do,
There's a lot of repurposed as well. It is something that's been fooling everybody, which is AI workflows.
yep.
There is a insane number of startups building step-by-step workflows with AI steps in the middle.
Hmm.
And folks go and adopt these tools because it's easy to say, well, when I receive an email, then I want to send a message to someone and I want the AI to generate the message. And you do that and you feel like you're using AI, or actually you're not. You're just use one step of AI in there, but effectively the entire thing's manually managed. And
Yeah, well,
someone,
it's heuristic. It's a rule set that we
yeah,
had 30 years ago. I mean, it's not
yeah.
new. Yeah.
Yeah, adopting those tools right now, I think, is a fallacy, mostly because you still have a person managing that multi-step thing, and you're not really using the intelligence of the agent. You're using it just as a text generation tool.
Interesting.
So I think it's just gonna fall apart very quickly as we get more applications to the market that have a higher quality of experience and a higher autonomy,
Yeah.
which is not is fascinating how few people have actually tuned that autonomy is so important around
In-
AI.
Interesting. I like the way you talked about sort of the layers of AI. It's very similar to, the ISO stack, right? Infrastructure, physical layer infrastructure, up to application and presentation layer. A very similar kind of model. And I've never seen that applied to AI that way. And
Yeah.
you should do that.
Yeah.
ISO model applied to AI. Here it is, right?
The new stack, yeah, yeah. And it's
Yeah,
changing so rapidly because there's just so many new innovations all the time. And it is the market moving fast. Also, something people don't realize, the reason why it's moving so fast is because we're all at a clock. Our clock right now is the larger companies training the model.
yeah.
That's what's setting the pace.
The pace
And
layer. Yeah. Okay.
so the pace of AI is Google launching a new model or OpenAI launching a new model. That's the pace that we're going through right now, which is, once or twice a year. But here's the kicker. There's not enough hardware to run all the
Wow.
models.
Absolutely.
So because there's not enough hardware, they need to deprecate the older models.
Uh,
So if you build on ChatGPT, 4 this year, next year, whatever was going to run that does not exist anymore. They have to launch O3, O1, whatever the next generation is, because there's not enough hardware to put
mm,
all models live at the same time. So
wow.
everybody has to be changing all the time to catch up with the models because the hardware that's going to be running it's going to be the
Yep.
new.
To maintain concurrency. I've also thought there's a huge play in model efficiency for just
Yeah,
this reason, right? Because we've thrown hardware at the problem like crazy, and we're reaching the limits of hardware.
yeah,
Well, let's think about how the code is set up so that we don't need as much hardware. There's definitely a play in there that I don't
yeah.
hear people talking about, but it seems obvious to me. Um,
Yeah, and it's quite obvious what DeepSeek did, right? Like the Chinese team.
yeah,
That China always worked with constrained resources. So the fact that people got surprised that they found a way to make it cheaper and faster with constrained resources is kind of fascinating because that's what they have done for 50 years or like
yeah,
100 years of manufacturing. They found faster, cheaper ways to do things, and that's exactly what they did with AI. And everybody was so shocked. So it's like, oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah, not so much. This is the lean startup model at the country level, right? What is there anything that scares you about AI? You know, you hear the people like, humans won't have jobs and our electronic overlords are going to take over the world. And is there anything that
Yeah.
gives you pause around AI?
Yeah, there's quite a bit. I mean, the first part of that I think would be if you read any sci-fi books, you know.
Oh, I've read all of them. That's the point.
And then you open it now. If you watch the movie Her,
Yep.
with Joaquin Phoenix, and Scarlett Johansson, like you watch the movie, you're like, oh, that's interesting. It's like Siri but better. Like that was 5 years ago that you would say that. Now you're like, that's just the thing we have right now. Or like the Marvel movies where you have an AI that can dominate the world and all these other things. So if you go by sci-fi, it does not end well.
No.
And that's, I think, where we are, like in the crossing, because it's all a capitalistic movement, right? Like we found a faster, cheaper way to buy intelligence. It was very expensive to buy intelligence. You had to have a human, and they needed healthcare. And now you can have a cheaper way to have this
Yeah.
intelligence, like that one capacity that only humans had. Now you kind of can have it, somewhat, not perfect, but and you'll get there, no question.
Oh, yeah. No.
It'll be surpassing perfection in the next few years. So it doesn't end well in most sci-fi. It doesn't look capitalistically efficient, and we have socially not done a great job at like looking at, whatever. But the good news is, I think humans are pretty good at adapting and understanding when they're shooting themselves in the foot, right? Like with the environment, with this and that.
Yep.
And what generally happens in those conditions is what happened with Tesla as an example. Like, they capitalized on a failing environment by launching a product that was better for the environment long term, maybe not short
Mhm.
term. And then you have these divides or solar panels. Solar panels is a great example. Well, solar panels came out, people are like, it's never going to work. Let's burn more coal. Well, guess what? It's a lot cheaper to extend a solar panel, much lower maintenance, than dig the earth to
Mhm.
find coal to then move it somewhere. Like that's very expensive. So the more efficient always have a tendency to get more capitalistic incentive because it's cheaper, it's better, and lasts longer. So, what is going to be that for the AI? What is going to be like when you have free intelligence, and let's say we figure out robots and you have physical AI, and we're not that far. I mean, give it or take 10 years, you're going to have AI inside of robots that basically embody every problem humans can solve. Um, then what do we do? Like, are we are we like just going to the farmers market on weekends and playing music?
I'm
Like, I
going
don't
on. I'm going Tuesday at 10 o'clock. I'm not going to be working.
I mean, I don't know. Yeah, it's interesting to think about that.
Yeah.
So, like, in some aspects, I think it's scary. Now, I think the biggest problem is really like governments really don't know how to function in this new environment. They already didn't know how to function in the environment of social media. That already modified the environment of politics so significantly that allowed certain things to happen
Yep.
because people capitalize on that. So, like, what's going to be that for the AI piece? Are we going to our government's going to capitalize on AI to potentially leverage or control or the opposite? So there's a lot of variables that I think are just unknown and unplanned. But I believe in humans have the ability to know what's right, what's wrong, and then normally the better things generally surface and then they keep on moving forward. So I think it's not going to be a detriment as much because people are going to gain more space, more time. How many people today you meet and then they absolutely hate their job, right? Like how many people like you meet that like don't want to do this thing anymore? They love their company sometimes, but they hate this thing that they do. So
Yeah.
maybe they can have help there. They will be happier and they will have more time to think about, themselves and society as a whole and their families. And then maybe we're gonna have happier humans, which leads to a much better place for AI usage. So there's that path too, which is the
Yeah.
happy path, I'd say.
Interesting. Yeah. And you mentioned government, and we're back on pace layers, but the rate of change of government is slower than any of the other stuff we talked about today. So, for example, why do I have to pay attention to my Tesla? It's not because the car can't drive me wherever I want to go and not have an accident. It's because federal regulation doesn't allow it to happen. So government's always going to lag technology and society and other culture. It's just
Yeah.
the way they are, and it could be a problem, because I think go back to that. The governments that embrace it and accelerate it are going to gain competitive advantage over the countries that don't do that. So it's a big problem. And when you got a bunch of 85-year-olds running the government, like it's a little problem. They don't know how to turn on their PCs. Um, Tiago, this was great, man. Awesome.
Thank you. Yeah.
I love talking to you. If people want to engage you or your firm to help them on this journey, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah, we're at datagrid.com and I'm on LinkedIn. So you can just search Tiago da Costa on LinkedIn at Datagrid and then you'll find me.
Perfect. Thank you for your help. This was awesome. We may have to have you on again and explain more of this to us as it evolves. So thank you.
Thank you.
And
Thanks for having me.
for everybody that joined us, thanks for joining us on the CEO Project Podcast. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening to the CEO Project Podcast. We'll see you next time. Be sure to subscribe to get all the future episodes and check out our website, www.theceoproject.com.